Welcome to Dave and Dharm Demystify, a FinTech Futures podcast, helping make sense of the world of FinTech and digital finance. Please sit back and listen as the two Ds take a subject and discuss it to make it clearer and easier to understand.
Demystify.
Welcome to the Dave and Dharm Demystify show, and this week I'm sad that Dave can't join us, but I do have a very special guest. It's Rob Dunlap from Zafin. Hi, Rob.
Hi, Dharm. How are you?
I am really good, thank you. I'm probably quite excited, actually. This is a hot topic that we're going to cover. Today, I want to kind of demystify agentic banking and agentic AI. It seems like only yesterday we were talking about generative AI, and that was the hot topic. And literally, like now, everyone's talking about agentic AI and agentic banking. Rob, before we dive into the topic, can you give us a little bit of background? And I think that will explain why I've got you on the show.
Sure, I'd be happy to. First of all, it's such a pleasure to be on with you. So yeah, I'm Rob Dunlap. I'm the leader of product innovation at Zafin. And for anyone who isn't familiar with Zafin as a company, we're a financial services SaaS provider. So basically what we do is we provide banking technology and technology to other FIs. And our specific specialty is products, pricing, how you build those pricing and those products and pricing into offers and agreements, how you do that for corporate and commercial banking, not just retail banking, and kind of expand that out towards the full customer life cycle. And we do that in terms of actually establishing what those products are, but then of course going through and actually ensuring that the billing and charges and fees are properly processed for a bank. And as the head of product innovation, my mandate is relatively broad. So I support the team in what I would call organic innovation, adding new features, adding new capabilities to our platform, but then also more strategic and broader innovation around what should be new capabilities that we should build into the platform. How do we support our customers in their more creative use cases and interesting ways to push the envelope? And then before joining Zafin, I led AI and generative AI consulting for IBM in Canada. So very passionate about the AI domain, and at Zafin, specifically geared towards applying AI in a way that's going to benefit our customers to the greatest extent.
Cool. And how far back does your kind of experience in AI go?
I was the original leader of a very small AI team at IBM when we just started getting into conversational AI. So that was the 2014, 2015 timeframes. Everyone is, of course, very familiar with chatbots today. ChatGPT really has captured the zeitgeist, if you will. But back in 2014, we were also building these types of chatbots. They were much more, I would say they were much less flexible. We had to build conversational trees and train classifiers for how we were answering questions. So a lot more effort in the actual delivery of customized chatbot for companies. And so it has been super fascinating for me to see the evolution of AI's capabilities over the last 10 years working in the domain.
Cool. And let's take your view on what does agentic actually mean?
Sure. Firstly, this is a tricky thing for people to define. I think that there are many different perspectives around what agentic AI is. And so I like to corner or root my definition of agentic AI in what makes it specifically different. And so that isn't an agent that can accomplish a particular functionality. It is really specifically being able to apply autonomous AI capabilities to problems and then have them iterate through those problems. So try the problem once, twice, maybe 500 times to arrive at an answer that, based on how you actually coordinate those agents, and of course there can be multiple of these agents, how they arrive at the best possible solution. That iterative methodology is really what I think is the key to agentic AI, what makes it such a transformative technology, and what is going to unlock a huge amount of value for us as technologists, but also as hopefully civilization.
I mean, from my perspective, I kind of seen a lot of, I guess, initially kind of pilots, silo-based kind of experiments with agentic AI, mainly focused internally as people are still scared to kind of expose anything generative to the external world, let alone agentic. But, you know, my interest today really is actually the customer impact. And if I look out long term, then given that banking has already faced a challenge with distribution. Firstly, it was open banking that opened the doors for access to banking data, which allowed third parties to build their own apps on top of banking data and improve the experience. So banks lost a bit of the customer interaction. Then along comes banking as a service, and brands are owning end-to-end journeys now, leveraging again a relationship with the bank, but with the bank very much in the background. So to me, distribution is already on its way out for banks, but there's still lots of things that can't be done without going to the bank directly today. However, longer term, when I started thinking about agentic AI, I started to think, well, you know what I really want is not to make my banking easier, but somebody else to do my banking for me. It's like the stuff that I do to juggle my bills and make my payments, to run my house, etc., to save for my kids' education, etc. I want something else to actually just do that for me. Now, the question I have for you, well, okay, maybe a couple of questions. In what kind of time frame do you think this might happen, or won't it happen? And B, and this is the real tricky question, I think, do you think those kind of agents, if they do come about, will actually be provided and taken up from banks or from third parties? Because clearly, if I had an agent, I'd want something that was independent of a bank, so I knew I was getting the best products each time.
I think that's a really fascinating way to look at the future. And maybe almost starting with the second perspective and going back to the first, we know that with almost 100% certainty that AI adoption is probably going to start with third-party apps. We're already living in that future. You could be using ChatGPT, and many people are, to go through their credit card statements, for example, and determine if they have a subscription that they shouldn't be paying for, or to do personal financial management kind of use cases for them. And so just by virtue of or to research credit cards or any of these other use cases that are interesting ones that you would want to apply an agent to. And so by virtue of the fact that it is going to be the frontier labs or the leading edge AI providers that are going to come out with this technology first, we are all as individuals going to be experimenting with applying those third-party AI solutions to our banking experiences. I think that's just a truth. But when you think about the use case of, for example, determining the optimal product or product set for your financial future, like that is a big audacious goal of how AI agents could be applied to this space. The ability of a third-party agent to actually compose the best deal for you is going to be limited. And the reason for that is it's only going to have access to the public data that is on the internet. And we all know, anyone who has researched, for example, mortgages, you're able to go to banks' mortgage calculators, for example, and you'll get a rate, but you're not going to get the best possible rate that you would negotiate with the bank as they understand your full financial history and the value of you as a customer over your lifetime. And so I think we are going to see a fast follow of AI agentic capabilities that are specific for banks, that they build themselves, that they try and create that really white glove service for you of how do we compose the best financial relationship with you? How do we support you as a holistic customer? And because they own the product backbone, because they're able to put together the most customized deals for you that a public third-party virtual agent wouldn't, or agentic AI solution wouldn't be able to, I think that in the long run, they have the potential to win out. But they must innovate quickly enough in order to get there. And of course, they must have the flexibility around how they bundle their products and price and everything else to really differentiate with the offer that they put together for you. And I think that for some banks, that's going to be a significant challenge for a variety of reasons.
So what you're saying is that essentially we'll start off with some third-party ones, but essentially banks will start to defend themselves by personalizing the product so that they can't easily discover all the features of their products, just through their websites. And therefore banks will try to hit back with their own agents that have smarter access to internal data. Is that the kind
That's
of...
exactly right. And then they'll be competing with regards to the quality of their agents. And that's not only, of course, in the sales journey or the continuous sales journey of here are the products that we recommend to you as an individual, but of course in the service journey. Our interaction with our banks is relatively short from a time perspective on buying new products. But what really is the continuous relationship is how are we being serviced day in and day out as our needs evolve. And so that's, I think, a really interesting opportunity to not have banking be as inflection point oriented. What we see in the industry today is you probably start with the bank that your parents had. You may change banks when you buy a mortgage, for example, or go through another very significant financial inflection point. And then maybe once or twice you're going to be pulled from one financial institution to another because of some offer. And we're certainly seeing more of an appetite with consumers to move between banks when they're offered really compelling reasons to transfer funds or whatever it might be. But still, it's an inconvenience with changing your bank. And so the opportunity to, as a bank, offer longer journey, a more white glove service, I think is going to be a really interesting evolution and hopefully a much better banking experience in the long run. And then you asked about timelines, Dharm. I think I'm always reticent to give timelines. We're already in the third-party experience, and I think in the next couple of years especially, we're going to see that sophistication of third-party be very sophisticated, to be able to do a lot for you and be able to do it in a reliable way that you're not suffering from hallucinations or anything else. I think that for many reasons, the banks are going to be slower than a year or two to offer that to customers. They have an understandable desire to make sure everything is very reliable, is compliant from a regulatory perspective and everything else before it goes prime time to customers. But I think that's definitely something that we're going to be seeing in at least the next 5 years for sure, maybe even sooner.
So just before we kind of go back to the bank, and we kind of looked at the kind of, I guess, the positive side that third parties can potentially offer this service sooner. Are there any other challenges other than discovery of the kind of like personalized features? Are there any other challenges for third parties to kind of replace a bank as my go-to for managing my finances?
I think it depends on, I think they're going to do more in your financial relationship. And I come back to the sales journey. One of the things I reflect on is, Econ 101, when we talk about supply and demand, and we talk about the customer who is completely rational because they're fully informed. That doesn't exist in the real world. And one of the reasons that when you think about economics, it's a great analogy, but it's not a perfect science. With AI agents, we will have basically perfectly informed capabilities. And so in terms of directing you to products or services that you are going to find compelling and understanding your needs because it develops a relationship with you, they are going to be uniquely capable to do that in a way that is so much more time efficient and, of course, hopefully more comprehensive than you going on to every credit card website and determining which set of points is going to be best for you. So I think we're going to see a really powerful role there. I think we're going to see it in personal financial management. I think we're going to see it in terms of how you're making decisions around major financial purchases as well. And so we're going to see these third-party assistants taking on more and more of our financial life. And then there's going to be a really interesting integration question around where is the line drawn between that and between the role that the banks are going to play. And the banks that are going to be most successful are probably going to be the ones that understand their specific areas of greatest competitiveness and really double down on those, double down on how they can build the best financial bundle and service that the best, but are not going to expend a huge amount of energy competing with some of the best capitalized companies in the world who are these AI companies.
I mean, for me, I think one of the challenges is that, am I really going to trust another third party with all of the username passwords to my different financial services providers? I don't know about that. I have much as I like the excitement of somebody taking over my finances for me, giving one thing access not only to view my finances, but then to start managing them. I want a kind of interim step in between there, maybe, where I learn to trust it and give it more access and more capability before it fully takes over.
And that evolution of where your threshold of trust having the AI agent do things on your behalf, and to your point, it's not just like reading your data, it is potentially executing things on your behalf, is going to be a really interesting thing for us to see evolve over the next few years. Because of course, it's going to be different for everyone. Some people are going to be much more comfortable with that. Some individuals are going to be much more reticent. And another advantage that the banks have is that they have an established trusting relationship with you. And of course, the backing of regulation and statute from governments where it will make all of us feel comfortable in that. And the AI solutions that they develop, of course, we're going to have the expectation that they're abiding by and regulatory cover it to make sure that they're abiding by the same practices that they do today when they're not applying AI and delivering service.
I think one of the things that I tend to run too far ahead. Sometimes I get ahead of myself because whilst it's possible to kind of automate some of these things, we're still well behind on, I think, some critical capabilities like open finance. We have open banking, but open finance is long been mooted. And I don't know in any country where they've actually made solid progress into areas like investments and pensions, let alone anything more complex like insurance, etc. So there may be some other dependencies that we're waiting on. But in the meantime, I guess apart from personalizing the product features, and we tend to consumers especially, we're used to comparing rates and charges. Is there anything behavioral that banks can do within the product to kind of retain the customer?
Absolutely. One of the areas that I'm most excited about innovation in the next few years is around personal financial management and financial lifestyle involvement. This is an area that I think AI is going to be able to really support, enable a level of scaling that really isn't possible, and also to the benefit of consumers. When we think about even retail banking or corporate and commercial, you think about the traditional banking relationship, you went in and you talked to your banker and you had a conversation around your spending and your savings and everything else. Now, with the last 20 years of investment in digital technology, none of us do that anymore, which means we have a lot of convenience, but it also means that we don't have this feedback mechanism to say, hey, are you doing the right things or are you not? And that level of financial advice is something that really isn't available, or if it is available, it's not adopted by, I would say, a large cross-section of the people who are banking today. And that is, to your point, it's a behavioral interaction. Getting advice once and then, or reading a personal financial management book, reading The Wealthy Barber, whatever it might be, you take those lessons, but they don't become a part of your habits necessarily. And if you create AI solutions that are going to be able to understand, okay, this is what your spending is, you have these financial goals, you want to save for a house, this is what the order of magnitude for a down payment is going to be, allow us as the AI agent and the bank in the background or a third party to understand and coach you on how to do that best. Maybe you should be changing your spending patterns a little bit. Maybe you should be using this savings vehicle that is available to you in order to save for a down payment. All of that involvement in the financial well-being of a customer, I think, is something that AI is going to be able to unlock at scale that we never would be able to do person to person just because it's too expensive and time consuming for a bank.
In terms of challenges for banks, I guess one of the things that worries me, and I don't know whether the AI side of things necessarily can help in this, is that we typically operate banks in silos. Those silos could be within the channels, within the processes, sales versus customer service. It could be channels within the products, typically mortgages versus accounts, et cetera, et cetera. Can AI help kind of bridge those silos? Is there a solution for that without restructuring the entire bank?
I think there are many solutions or opportunities for improvement there. And the way that I conceptualize it that I think helps for me is separating technology and process. Although they're very intertwined, they're a little bit different. From a technology perspective, one of the main things that we talk about at Zafin is how do you modernize your core? The core banking technology for invariably almost every bank is something that was developed in the 70s or the 80s. It's something that takes a long time in order to add a new product or add a new feature or add a new capability. And that lack of agility is something that really hampers innovation as well as quality of service across every bank. Generative AI has a huge opportunity to help with that. Generative AI can go through the legacy COBOL code that exists today, where we don't even have that many humans who can go through and read it, and extract the logic and help you if you want to modernize and migrate to a more modern system so that you can be more agile, or to update that code, whatever it might be. All of these use cases are unlocked by generative AI in a way that hopefully is going to make that modernization and transformation much easier, focused on technology. And then when we bring the human in the loop, aka we end up in the process domain where we're interacting with the technology. One of the reasons that we have silos is because of a lack of awareness of what is happening elsewhere in the bank or in the FI. And so I may be interacting, as let's use a mortgage example again, I may be talking to a customer about a potential mortgage. And if I don't have a full understanding of every other financial product that they have with us, the quality of the relationship, et cetera, I'm not going to be in a position to advocate on their behalf for the best possible rate. And so that's another area that AI agents can help with. They can help with composing and bringing together an understanding of everything that's happening with that customer, all the attributes associated with them, in order to inform the customer interaction. And it doesn't need to be customer to representative or seller at the bank. It can just be when they're processing a back office process. And when we think about the bank today, I mean, really, what is the bank? The bank is a collection of processes, thousands and thousands of processes that are taking place day in and day out for different products and transactions. And so if we can have AI solutions that are going to help make those people who are conducting them more efficient, that's going to be a huge advantage to the bank. And of course, their ability to provide better customer experiences.
Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of this kind of human plus AI approach to stuff. We had Simpera on recently that talked about commercial banking for small businesses. The problem is you can't scale the advisors very effectively. The AI does all the grunt work, preparing the meeting for the client to inform the bank manager, so they don't have to do so much background work. So yeah, I mean, I'm fully on board with that. So if we can overcome the silos, and I guess we can marry them up with agents or human agents as we need to, right? Is there anything else that can be done by the banks to kind of defend themselves? We talked a little bit about behaviors, features, anything else, I guess, that helps them to retain their distribution? The areas that I wonder is, I did some work some time ago and I looked at AI could be an advisor on specific areas like mortgages or cars, etc. So a silo-based approach. AI could be a general advisor, which is a bit more complicated. AI could also potentially be a lifestyle manager. And for me, a lifestyle manager, we try to create one in my previous startup called Ask Homey, where we create a lifestyle manager in effect for managing your home. And what we realized was that actually 70% of your spend is related to your house. It's your mortgage, your bills, repairs, maintenance, anything that you want to do to make the house look nice, etc. Right? And even all of your shopping, etc. But the banks weren't really doing much to kind of help you with that aspect of it. They didn't really want to understand how you live your life and therefore how it could better improve your financial management. But I could see lots of kind of, I guess, lifestyle or life stage journeys that could be improved potentially by AI. I mean, do you think banks should get involved with managing life stages better?
I think that's an open question and a really interesting one. I think that banks who are thoughtful about it will do so incrementally. And so they'll think about offering you, for example, a step in that direction is the personal financial management use case. Because then we have the analysis around the transactions. We understand your spending history. We understand probably your future goals, and we can help coach you through that. And so then after that, it's a pretty natural extension to say, okay, great, we've helped you line up all these goals and we're supporting you day in and day out. Now you want to execute some of those transactions, even though they're outside of the banking realm specifically. Can we coach you on the best ways to do that? Can we be involved in that even as a marketplace in order to support you, maybe advocate on your behalf to get preferred pricing? Can we incorporate that into a larger scheme around loyalty for you? Can the points that you save, for example, on your credit card, can those then be redirected to household purchases in a way that you're kind of envisioning there, Dharm, so that you're feeling like not only is the bank kind of at the end of the day a transaction ledger for me, not only is it processing all this stuff, but it's actually supporting me in achieving my goals, not only on the save, but also on the acquisition side. So I think that's really an interesting hypothesis. I think that ambitiously, the best way for banks to conceptualize their relationship with the customer is going to be broader for sure. And it'll be interesting to see as the couple of years progress if they have the desire to kind of get into that space. I think that'd be really exciting.
Cool. And then I guess, also I hear a lot about things like responsible AI, explainable AI. What are your thoughts about those kind of things when it comes to agents?
I think it's an absolutely critical part for any use case in financial services. And so maybe I will decompose it into a few areas that I think are of particular importance. The first thing is there are going to be regulations and statutes in basically every jurisdiction that are different for AI and data and how you can use data and AI. And any bank who's operating in a jurisdiction needs to operate within the confines and the guardrails that are stipulated by regulation and statute. So that's going to be a challenge that every bank faces. In addition to that, we were talking earlier about trust and the fact that banks have such a deep-seated trust in our lives already. That's something that every bank that I've ever talked to is very conscious of and wants to make decisions around customer experience and technology that ensure that they retain that trust. A key component of that is the human and AI partnership that we talked about. And at Zafin, this is something that we really believe strongly in. We don't want to be having an AI solution making any significant decisions on behalf of a customer or even internally in our use cases. Instead, what we're aiming to do is we're aiming to accelerate and expand the scope of our human individuals and empower them with the best possible agentic AI and generative AI capabilities to make them capable. And then when you take a step back and think about AI, explainability is so important. Why are we recommending something to you? Why are we making a particular decision, et cetera? Bias and bias detection and ensuring there isn't bias in terms of decisions is so important. And so there's a very broad AI governance ecosystem and framework that every bank needs to have. And we're very conscious of that because any AI use case that we want to deliver with a bank needs to reflect that. And so if we don't provide all those proper capabilities in that toolbox to them, then they're not going to be empowered to actually leverage some of the latest innovation. One last point is, and we're seeing this around data, but also importantly in terms of AI capabilities, individuals as well as organizations want the ability to opt in and opt out. And so you may decide as an individual, thanks very much, but I actually don't want AI doing these things for me. Or a bank who leverages the Zafin platform may say, these are really great AI capabilities, but for us, we're not comfortable yet leveraging them in these particular use cases. And so that opt-in, opt-out, I think is really important to be successful.
Cool. Look, we're coming towards the end of our show. And as always, because we get such fantastic guests, we always run out of time before really covering everything that we'd like to. But from an AI perspective, is there anything of really kind of interest, or what gets you excited about AI at the moment from a technology perspective?
There are two main things, speed and democratization. And so when I reflect on us as an organization and even how I work as an individual and how I operate in the world, if you will, it's amazing how AI can enable me and our organization to be faster to develop products, more comprehensiveness in those products, better operations, more efficient with my time, whatever it may be. The speed factor, I think, is such a critical part of AI and is something that I am experiencing so viscerally as an individual. I'm very excited about it. But the even more exciting thing that I think we've seen over the last 2.5 or coming up on 3 years with ChatGPT is it is a technology that anyone can leverage. You can leverage it to skill up in areas that you never had competency in before. Anyone can do vibe coding or develop a minimum viable product for their concept of an app that that they might want to build a business around where they could never do that before. If you want to learn a new language, or you even just want to travel in a foreign country and you don't have access to the language, you can now walk around with a translator in the palm of your hand. All of these things are just providing each of us as individuals and as companies with an unlock of so many interesting new capabilities. And I think that one of the things that's, in spite of the fact that the AI is generally, especially frontier labs, a small group of companies, small group of individuals, and it may feel like power is kind of concentrating in a small group of people, the virtues of this technology and its ability to benefit us in a democratic way, I think is really powerful and really exciting. So I'm excited to see all of the long tail of innovation that's going to come out of that as society continues to adopt these technologies.
Yeah, I mean, I think just to pick up on the pace thing, that excites me because I kind of love the evolution of tech and picking new things up and learning things quickly. But it worries me also because it really is going to be a case of that if you can't keep up with this stuff, you will fall far further back really quickly than ever before. And I experienced that kind of like personally, where literally I was speaking to a CEO of a software company who has never written code before, but has created an energy management solution for his home, right? And it covers the heating, lighting, etc. And I'm thinking, well, hold on, this is a one-man creation. I myself have been I'm starting to understand about areas that I never thought I would touch. Like, I'm very interested in the US debt and the economics behind Trump's tariffs, etc. But I'm learning by having conversations with these AIs, like really quick. And then the other day I discovered literally that stuff like Gemini can start to do stuff for you, not just the research and not just give you new content, but actually start to put stuff into a to-do list and send you reminders and stuff like that. And I'm like, whoa, hold on a sec. I didn't even know that these new capabilities had come in, right? Let alone now I'm teaching myself how to take advantage of those, right? But it's still great for people like me that have got a bit of time to do that. But how does a bank with its silos and thousands of staff or hundreds of staff, how does it stay up with the pace, do you think? I mean, have you got any advice, or what would you say? I don't think there's a right answer, but I'd love to get your opinion.
It's a very good question, and one that when I was leading the consulting AI business for Canada, we really grappled with a lot, and we do it at Zafin too. The interesting thing about where we are in AI right now is that we've only gone through so much innovation. We're only 3 years in. And so a lot of the technologies that are available are specifically geared to people who can use it well. The quintessential example is any of the development assistants, the GitHub Copilots or the Cursors of the world. Now, obviously, a software engineer is the most adept person or profile to leverage any of this technology because it's their domain. And so, of course, there's going to be a viable product in that space early on so that they can accelerate quickly. But when we thought about it, and when we think about it from either a product or a consulting perspective, we think about the importance of designing these AI solutions for user adoption. We can't just apply a chatbot interface to every use case and hope that it's going to stick. Instead, what the banks are going to grapple with is how do we create these, whether it's an autonomous AI agent that someone's interacting with or an assistant experience that actually lives within the process with them. Let's say it's a compliance process and they're supporting the level 1, level 2, level 3 compliance functions. It's got to be something that's embedded in their experience, embedded in their workflow, and designed to help with those individuals, talking about the human and AI partnership. And so there's a whole domain of design first AI where you build these conceptual solutions for a particular use case or a particular process or workflow. You get feedback from those end users on how it's helping, how it might improve, the areas that the AI is really going to support them in, et cetera. And you use that as a key part in your SDLC to actually inform your product and ensure adoption. And I think that's one strategy that is going to be really important. It's another reason why we're going to see so much innovation from the frontier labs, but actually taking that innovation and embedding it in the processes of any enterprise is going to take a little bit more effort. But I'm heartened by the fact, and the CEO example that you gave is a great one. I'm heartened by the fact that we can build these MVPs so quickly. And so you could sit down with that person in compliance and ask them what they need and build an MVP with them in a few hours, as opposed to the 6 weeks that it would take or 12 weeks that it would take to build an MVP before. So hopefully that's going to engender much more product development that is specific to the use cases and the benefits of the humans it's trying to empower.
Cool. We have run out of time, but I'm going to ask one more question, and it's just a one-word answer I'm looking for. When I look across the field of, I guess, people that talk about AI, literally there are almost two camps. There's the guys with the rose-tinted glasses like myself that just see all the benefits. And then there's the naysayers that are full of doom and, oh my gosh, we've let, the monster out of the bag and we haven't put the guardrails in place, blah, blah, blah. If you had to choose one camp, which camp would you say you're in?
Slightly rose-tinted glasses.
Good for you. Excellent. Welcome aboard, Rob. It's been fantastic talking to you. I really could talk to you for the rest of the day, and I've got a ton more questions. So maybe we'll schedule something for another time. But I want to take the opportunity to say thank you so much for sharing your insights. It's been fascinating. And yeah, look forward to having you on the show again.
Thanks for the time. I've really enjoyed chatting with you, Dharm.
Thank you for tuning in to Dave and Dharm Demystify. We hope you enjoyed the show. Don't forget to like and subscribe and tune in next time as we take another topic and demystify it.